Sangara, are we optimists? Are we? What do you think
You
going
know,
forward? $540 million US.
you
What's
know,
the verdict?
I would say I agree with both of you that it is the responsibility of the government and the international community involved in Afghanistan to put that money to good use. However, as we have discussed in the last hour, we have a structural problem of corruption and a dysfunctional state. So to wrap this whole conversation up, I think that personally, I think that it's up to Afghans, people who are not part of the bureaucracy and the government, people like us who are in Western countries, to become more involved and active. I know, like for instance, I have friends here in the Netherlands. They are entrepreneurs. They have their own businesses and they have created a charity. And two of our friends are currently right now in Afghanistan. Every day here in Holland, they're collecting donations from people, and they transfer that money to Kabul, and they buy food in bulk. They buy food in bulk, and they have a few places, like there is a bakery in Kabul. They have paid all the expenses of the bakery, and they said, look, for the coming few days we will order large quantities of food from you. You just make sure that all this food is prepared, and then we will distribute it. So these people, these Afghans, they've created an initiative by themselves. You know, they've taken this initiative and they're collecting money, and they're sending it to Kabul. They're distributing food to people who live in like on the streets in Kabul, or people who depend on day wages. You know, if they don't earn anything, they don't have food at the end of the day. So those people, they are affected the most, and these charities that are being created, like in our next show, we will be talking to an Afghan who is involved in a charity. What they're trying to do is to step up and help. Because obviously we can criticize the government and the NGOs and the charities or the aid organizations. However,
or the Americans or the Taliban, but we need to take action.
We need to take action, and that's yeah. Please.
But do you think that this is a durable solution? This is don't we need like something like a long-term solution for these problems?
Undoubtedly, yes, but the reality of the situation, I would say, is that we don't really have any other alternative at the moment.
Right now, I would say at this particular moment, when there is a crisis like the current Corona pandemic, I would say that least what we could do is become involved in these charities. But I agree that we do have we do need a long-term solution. That I definitely, we need a long-term solution, structural changes and improvements. But right now, I would honestly, I have no idea what else we could do under current circumstances.
Sangar, is there sorry, Shaira, carry on.
I think the longer it takes for the people and for the states, head of the states, to find a durable solution and address the problems, I think it's going to be the more harder it will get to find the long-lasting solutions.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
We are touching the surface of the problem, and at the moment we have we are in need of humanitarian aid and protection, and that's good. That's the best thing that we can do, as you said, at the moment. But the longer we prioritize the emergency pause, and this is the emergency pause, the longer it will get for the international communities, for the government, for those working for long-term solutions, to find solutions, because we're always gonna be aiming to provide the first-hand needs. And we will be neglecting the long-term solutions and long-term systematic approaches for long-time solutions. So, finding long-time solutions.
So, Sangar, do your friends have a link or something that our viewers, those who are
yes. It's
whatever for our viewers to donate to Kabul?
It's called Infaq Foundation, Muassaseh Khairiyya Infaq. I will put a link to that charity in the description box. We will share it. We will also share it on our Twitter and Facebook page. So for people who would like to donate to this charity, you can do that. We will also mention a few other charities as well during the month of Ramadan. People who we know that they're doing excellent work in Afghanistan right now. We will have a guest in our next show who is involved in such a charity, but we will do that. But I agree with Shaira that while we are in a state of crisis, we may have the tendency to postpone long-term solutions, and your analysis, it's excellent, because Shaira, if you look at an individual level, a human being who is in a state of crisis, like someone who is poor, who lives in poverty, who doesn't have the resources to live at least a decent life, that person cannot invent solutions or come up with solutions to fundamentally change his situation, because every day is a struggle to survive. Every day is a struggle to get some food so that you don't starve from famine. But in Afghanistan, if we look at the whole society as a whole country, we have all these structural problems, and while some part of our society are in a state of crisis, they are starving and they need urgent aid. A large segment of our society, and I wouldn't say the largest, but a significant segment of our society, they are pretty well off. They have homes, they have money, they have cars, they have dual passports, and then we have people like us. We live here safe and secure in Western countries. We have all the luxuries that you can imagine. So we as a society, we are dispersed and we are very diverse. We have different abilities and different, I would say, different resources. So I think, we need to see, each and every one of us needs to see, what can I do? What is it for me? What is realistic for me? What is it that I could do to at least contribute? Like, for instance, when I was maybe 10, 15 years younger, I was a lot more idealistic. I thought, we could change the world or whatever. But now that I'm starting to get older, I'm becoming more, how do you say? I'm
pragmatic and practical.
Yes. Well, so
pragmatic word is so cliche, but yeah, go take it.
But what I'm trying to say is we just need to look at what is actually, at the current situation, what is practical? What is it that we can do? So that yeah.
I understand. You go ahead. Yeah.
No. I mean, I'll just say what I'll say as a sort of concluding.
I do understand. Yeah, I do agree with you with that. This situation requires everyone, not only us and people living abroad, but also people who are living in Afghanistan. I think they have to become more empathetic towards each other.
True.
I think they shouldn't let outside influences to destroy the unity amongst them, to destroy the humanity in our society. I think they have to be more aware of the fact that even the governments, that nothing lasts forever. I mean, if they have their names in history books written as morally corrupt leaders, it's not going to help the next generation, and it's not going to be a good example for the next generation who's going to read those books. And I think they have to make sure and understand that, as you said before, someone was mentioning that COVID-19 doesn't discriminate. I think they should know that a leader can be affected.
True.
And they having stashing. I mean, I would say then the aid that is provided for them, and buying houses and having luxury cars is not going to be everlasting. And
True.
I think this is very worrying. After 19 years, we still have more than half of the population living under the poverty line, 7 million children starving. This is what can be more catastrophic for a country than this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll wrap it up with the following. Okay, so we discussed the government, we discussed the Americans, we discussed the Taliban. Now, when we're speaking about intra-Afghan negotiations, we always hear about the Madani Jami Astazi, or Numaindagan Jamia Madani, civil society representatives, right?
Yeah.
And I agree wholeheartedly. But the thing is that civil society in Afghanistan is constrained and cannot say freely what it would wish to say. Now, as Afghans living abroad who feel some sort of connection with our country and whatever, we should equally consider ourselves as members of Afghan civil society. We may not have, it's undoubted that we don't share the same experiences that they do, but we are in constant contact with them, and we want to help out. So in the hour of need, during this COVID-19 pandemic, this is really the time for us as conscientious Afghans in the month of Ramadan, which is all about the spirit of giving and being selfless. This is our time to step up, right? And, the COVID-19 pandemic, all of the difficulties we know we're going to face, we can take a part, even if it's a small part, but we can and we should do our bit to alleviate the suffering of real people back home. And so, I'm going to wrap it up with that. And speaking of civil society, we at AfghanEye are independently run, and we very much consider ourselves a platform for Afghan civil society that is not politically intimidated to voice our opinions, our concerns, aspirations, and ambitions. So a big thank you to everyone that subscribed to our YouTube channel since our podcast series with Dr. Nafis Saib, and a thank you to everyone that donated to our Patreon page. Follow us on Twitter. All of the handles and whatever are already on there. So yes, thank you very much.
And I would like to
our podcast, Shaira.
Yeah, I would like to ask Shaira before we go out. Before I go, if people want to get in touch with you, maybe you can tell us how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I don't use any other social media platforms except Twitter.
Okay.
So I am available on Twitter, yes, and they can. And I'm always ready for debates and challenges, because I think it's very important for us to look at the problems from different angles and to come up with a joint solution. Yeah.
Okay, I have your Twitter handle on our page, and thank you very much for your time. I know it's Ramadan, it's very difficult. We are all fasting. We need to prepare food. I need to now go dive into the kitchen myself. So, inshallah.
I never took you for a cook, Sangar.
I am actually. I cook. Yeah, I do cook at home quite often. So, Shaira, thank you very much. I really appreciate the fact. Yeah, we're quite honored to have you as our guest, and your contribution and your research, please continue doing what you do. And we would love to see you again in our show to discuss more, because obviously there are so many issues that we can still talk about. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to all of the viewers.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.